We're going live as we speak.
Okay.
So
Got it.
for all intents and purposes, we're live right now.
Hello.
So hello, everybody, and welcome to the show, Shelli R Johannes or Johannes.
Whatever.
Johannes. In the States,
Johannes.
it's Johannes, and everywhere else in the cultured world, it would be Johannes.
I know, that's weird. I don't know why that is. I should ask my parents that because everyone asks me that. Everyone says Johannes.
Yeah, you can be Johannes for today.
Okay, thank you.
And I met you 4 minutes ago, and already
Yes.
I'm deeply in awe
Oh,
of your character.
we're already buddies.
Yeah, and to the extent that, but I'm not going to be your dinosaur pet. I want to make that clear.
Okay.
I should say, because I always forget, that you are watching and listening to the Children's Literature Channel of the New Books Network, hosted by me, and I am Mel Rosenberg. And I have a wonderful guest today, a very prolific writer, Shelli Johannes, with an R in the middle. The R stands for?
Renee.
Renee.
I almost said Regal, but that probably wouldn't be as good.
Okay, and you can make it easy for me. Just tell me all about your life. Start at the beginning. And when I raise my hand, I want to ask you a question.
Okay, I was born in St. Louis. I, didn't start out to be a writer. So I actually have a master's in marketing and spent a lot of time in corporate America. So I did not come up through the traditional world of publishing or wanting to be a writer. I always loved to write, but
Shelli, we're back. We started at the age of 0.
Oh, 0?
Unless you were a child prodigy and went to university at the age of 3, you're
I
ahead
did.
of yourself here.
I did.
I knew it.
I was reincarnated at the age of 20. Okay, so yeah, I grew up in Vero Beach, Florida. I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and I moved around a lot because my dad worked for he's an aerospace engineer, so he worked for Boeing and a lot of different aerospace engineer companies, Lockheed. And we ended up in Atlanta when I was in middle school. And I'm back in Atlanta, but I've lived really all over the Southeast. I went to UGA for my undergrad. Didn't know what I wanted to major in. So I remember talking to my dad saying, I just have no idea what to major in. And he said, well, I heard estate planning made tons of money. I was like, okay. So I have an undergrad degree in estate planning and risk management.
You can learn that in university?
Yes, somehow. So I graduated and worked with an annuity company for a year and was like, no, this is not what I want to do. So I decided to go back to school, and I went back to Auburn University and got my master's in marketing and organizational communications.
Okay.
Yep, that's the beginning.
Enough. Okay, but we have to go back now because you write for 2 audiences.
I do.
You have a split personality. You write these charming picture books, which we're going to talk about mostly today.
Yes.
And you also write for teenagers.
I do. I have 2. Yes. I always say I write 0 to 18 because I've got chapter books coming out. I'm working on a middle grade. So I'm trying to have domination of 18 and under.
You want to
of all genres.
You want to have your own library.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that. But on my show, I like to ask authors at what age they are stuck, because I have this theory that picture book writers are stuck at the age of 5. I certainly am. But you seem to be multi-stuck.
I am multi-stuck. I have a light side and a dark side, I think is probably what I would look at it. So I've got this light kind of fluffy fairy side where for Halloween, I'll wear fairy wings and glitter on my face and, tell my kids stories about unicorns. And then I have this really dark side that is obsessed with true crime and murder and everything suspicious. And I have a certification in private investigation. So that's kind of my other side. So those sides battle often and frequently.
And as a young child? Which character had the upper hand?
Which character?
Or the upper claw?
The upper claw. Well, in front of my parents, it was the light fairy side. Away from my parents, it might have been the darker side.
Okay. And you, as a kid, you were like?
As a kid, I was very curious. I think I was a little bit, this sounds stupid, but I was a little bit beyond my years. Like I think I was thinking about things that were bigger than what other kids were thinking about, like space and, animals, like conservation, things like that. I do remember, I was telling my husband this the other night. I do remember the Adam Walsh case was close to my city. I lived in Vero Beach, and that was closer to Fort Pierce in Florida. So I do remember being younger and hearing a lot about Adam Walsh, his son being kidnapped. And that was like a very big topic in our town because we were such a small town and it happened so close. So I almost wonder if that kind of put that true crime little bug inside, but I was always investigating and kind of looking for things and wondering about things.
And yet, with all this interest in animal conservation, engineering, you're a techie, but you didn't study science in university,
I did not.
nor engineering. Perhaps,
nor writing,
perhaps to the
nor writing, nor
perhaps
nothing.
to the chagrin of Daddy, the engineer.
Annuities. I studied annuities. Yeah.
I say, we can't really say that on the air, annuities.
No, we
because
can't.
It sounds like something else. Okay.
Oh, okay.
But now let's go to your writing career.
Yes. Well, I do remember when I was in fourth grade, there was a state contest in Florida, and it was a nutrition contest. And I remember my teacher, Miss Crawford, saying, if anyone would like to join, you have to write an essay about nutrition. And I remember going to her saying, I don't really want to write an essay, but I have a book idea. And she was like, that's fine. I mean, it says essay, but if you want to write a book, write a book. So I wrote a picture book called The Smart Cookie. And it was about a cookie who didn't eat right and was kind of on a journey to nutrition. And I won that contest.
You won the state contest.
I won the state contest. Yeah.
They accepted cookies.
They accepted cookies, and I thought outside of the box, so it stuck out in a pile of
outside of the Oreo box.
Yes.
Well done. Yeah.
And so that was kind of my first time I remember being recognized for writing. So I've always loved to write.
Recognized on a state level.
On a state level, yeah. And I have a picture of me folding the state flag, like at the Capitol. So it was a big deal. And I was in the newspaper, back when newspapers were important. And my mom had all the clippings out. So that was a great recognition. But for some reason, I never really saw that as a path. I think kids now see being an author as a path or being a writer as a path. But I think when I was younger, I didn't even know an author really was a person. Like, I just thought books appeared, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like a stork. It was like a book stork. They just appeared. No one really talked about the authors.
Amazing.
Yeah.
A kind of immaculate conception. I almost said misconception.
So then fast forward, when I was in marketing and organizational communications, I was doing a lot of marketing and creative writing around, selling a product and coming up with the benefits of that product and looking for target audiences. And so I spent a lot of time with agencies and companies and people doing this creative work. And when my daughter was born, I always say she sat on something inside of me, because it was 2004 and I was working as an SVP with Bank of America in their credit card services department in marketing and communications. And they gave me 6 months of maternity leave. So I took that.
So you had a senior position.
Yes. I worked my way up through corporate America. I was a great ladder climber.
You clawed your way up.
So it's claws again. And I had 6 months off and they were like, you are not allowed to log in. Like, when you have 6 months off, you have 6 months off. And so I kept getting my hand slapped because I would check my email and, but then I got an idea for a book. I traveled overseas with my husband, and there was this little shop called The Broken Winged Fairy. And I was like, that would be a cute book. So I came back and I literally just started writing. And it was right around the time when Harry Potter was big. So my goal was to be the next Harry Potter.
So you sat in a coffee shop in Edinburgh?
No, I came back home and sat in my room in between naps schedules for my daughter when she was a baby and started writing a book. And that's when I met Harold.
Yeah. So we're
Our
shouting
friend
out
in
to
common.
Harold Underdown.
Harold Underdown.
If you're listening, Harold, and you
We
should
love you.
be. He's kind
Yes.
of busy, but we love him. He's
Yes.
got this cane press thing going. We love you anyway, Harold.
So I met up with
Okay.
Harold, and he was actually an editor on that book. And that book never sold. It made it to acquisitions, but it never sold. But I
Whoa,
always
whoa,
say,
whoa, 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 whoa. How
Yeah.
did you meet Harold? How did you get into the industry? How did you?
I
This
think
is all. This is
I
all
found,
interesting to my audience.
okay, that's great. I feel like I'm boring, but that's good. So I joined SCBWI,
Okay.
the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, in 2005.
Wow.
So I credit everything to that organization. So that's where I met Harold. He ended up coming to a conference here in Atlanta, and I asked him if he wanted to have coffee. I love him. He's so nice. I mean, he's just so approachable, right?
You just went up to him and say, "Hi, I'm Shelli
No,
Johannes or
actually,
Johannes.
I think
Would
I
you like to have
emailed
coffee
him.
with me?"
I think I emailed him ahead of time and said, "Hi, Harold, I'm going to the conference." I don't think I knew if that was a bad thing or a good thing back then. Like, I don't know if I knew appropriate protocol. I think I was just like, "Hi, I'm going to be at the conference. Would you like to be for coffee?" And he was like, "Sure." So we met for coffee, and he ended up helping me on this book. So I'm
He's a
still an
wonderful guy.
SCBWI.
So you're in debt to Harold, as many of us are, including me.
Yes.
That's wonderful. So he helped you edit this.
Yes.
And it was what? It was a middle grade. It was what?
It was a middle grade. I'll show you. It was a middle grade novel.
Shelli, show everybody.
I'm going to show everybody. So this is the manuscript that Harold sent back to me. So it still has Harold's notes in it.
Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah. So it never went anywhere. So he's got all of his little notes and comments on the side. And this obviously was all paper back then. So I still have this big old file that I've kept.
Incredible. So then when you finished editing it and Harold helped you, what did you do with it?
I sent postcards out to agents and editors. And I believe it and it went to acquisitions. I can't remember the group that it went to. And here's a note right here. It says, "Don't overdo this." That's his only note on that page. I seem to remember it being Margaret Elderby, but don't quote me on that. But that name always sticks out to me. I'd have to look through my file. Who wrote me a very nice letter and offered to do non-contractual revisions. And that her editorial team loved the idea, but that they felt like there were some issues. And at the time, I did not know that was a thing. So I was kind of like, no, I don't think so. That was it.
So
and then I got rejected every place else. And
so your wings were broken?
My wings were broken.
You were despondent and dejected?
No, no, I don't think so. I'm super persistent. So I think I was just like, well, on to the next thing.
Okay. And the next thing was?
The next thing were my thrillers, my young adult thrillers. And so it's the Nature of Grace series. And I really love that series. And I ended up getting an agent. It was Alyssa Hinken, who at that time was with Trident, and she is now with Birch Path, and she's amazing. I highly recommend her. And she was my agent. I had the YA book and I had a middle.
Let's get her on the show.
Yeah, she's not my agent now, but she's an amazing agent, and she's with Birch Path. So I think she's now started her own kind of boutique agency so that she can focus really on the things that she loves, since Trident's so big. I actually just conversed with her in the last few weeks. So
even better reason to get her on the show.
Yeah, she's great. And I believe she used to be an editor, so she has kind of that dual hat perspective. So we worked on 2 books. We worked on a middle grade book, which was called On the Bright Side. And it was right in the time where angels were really big, but they were big in YA. So I had a middle grade angel book, and that was such a that was a dejected process. I think it went to acquisitions at 3 different places. It didn't quite make it over the top. So it got so close so many times. That was a tough one. And
talk about your smashing breakthrough.
Well, then like I left, Alyssa and I parted after we worked on a YA because she really felt like I should stay in middle grade and younger books, oddly.
Mhm.
And I was like, no, I need to go dark. This didn't sell, so I need to go darker. So we parted ways amicably. And I self-published. So I went on a road of self-publishing for about 5 years and left traditional publishing. I was so discouraged after that middle grade didn't sell. So I went into self-publishing, and it was I think I sold 250,000 ebooks. Like, it was right at the time where self-publishing was really big, but it really had a big stigma to it. I don't know if you remember, it was right around 2010-ish. And
You
so
sold 250,000 ebooks.
I sold 250,000 ebooks of that series.
That's incredible.
It was crazy. Yeah.
So you're supporting the family.
Number one Amazon, release. It was listed as one of the best, books of the year, like in those top 100s. It was amazing.
That is not in your biography.
No, it's not.
It should be.
Yeah.
The average author who self-publishes on Amazon sells less than 40 ebooks.
Yeah.
So you're doing quite well in that area. So you self-published
5 books.
5 ebooks on Amazon.
Yep.
Incredible that you were able to sell them, market them, and I don't know what else. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I made the covers. I hired a photographer. I used all my marketing experience. It was so fun. I love it. I'm going to get back into self-publishing, but I just loved the process. I loved the ownership. I
think you should have your own publishing house.
Yeah, I should publish everyone's books that I like.
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Johannes
Publishing.
I thought maybe Rosenberg and Johannes published.
Oh, okay, Rosenberg. That sounds pretty good. I mean, you take 2 big names like that and put them together. We already sound like we're a big publishing house.
And it sounds very old European.
Yes, which is, everyone will be like, oh, let's go back to the old school stuff.
And then we'll get like this emblem from the 1600s or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So so that was an ebook breakthrough. And then what happened? This is incredible. You keep surprising me in good ways.
Yes. So then what happened is I ended up self-publishing 5 books. My Nature of Grace series did great. My other 2 books did not. I published a book called Rewired that didn't quite hit the market. It was a technology thriller. And then I made a big mistake in publishing my lovely Angel middle grade book that didn't make it. And, that went to acquisitions. And middle grade just does not sell well in self-publishing. And I could really kick myself because I really feel like that book is still viable. It's my favorite book of the ones I've done. And I've already self-published it, but it only sold like 50 copies. I mean, that one was just not worth even publishing at all, but I still loved the process as I was going through it. So then I was it's something called life. Yeah.
Keep going.
So then I was at a conference in Atlanta called the Atlanta Writers Conference. And I noticed that there was a digital manager who was coming. And so I signed up for a pitch and a critique with a couple of different agents. Her name was Laura Perkins, and she was with Andrea Brown Literary Agency. At that time, she was a digital manager. She was not an agent. She was doing a lot of the digital work for Laura Rennert's team and Barry Eisler, and really launching that. So I think she really, at that time, there was a stigma around self-publishing. So I don't think that I had a lot of credibility at that time, but she really got what I did because she was doing it. And at that conference, I won Best Pitch and Best First Chapter.
Wow.
And so she said, I may start agenting soon, I'll keep you in mind. And then so about 6 months later, she contacted me and said, hey, that book that you pitched, are you still working on it? And at that time, I was a little disgruntled with the traditional side of the industry. So I wasn't looking for an agent. I was just looking for feedback. And so she and I talked about, it was actually their book Rewired. So I think I self-published 4 books before I met her. And then Rewired, I went on with her as an agent, and Rewired did not sell, which was my YA technology thriller. And then I self-published it. So she was really good about letting me self-publish while I gave her traditional books to work on. Yeah, she's amazing.
You're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
So listen, we are going to have a whole, like people say, a whole nother session
Oh, okay.
on the self-publishing, traditional publishing conundrum.
Yes, hybrid
Because
authors.
it intrigues me.
Yeah.
And you've been in both places with the phenomenal success. But I want to
And
talk
failure. I mean, I've experienced success and failure
Oh.
on both sides. So I kind of know what the challenges are as well.
You can't have one without the other. I'm
Yeah.
going to start singing in a minute.
Uh-oh.
It's like love and marriage.
Love and marriage.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a definitely, I definitely consider myself a hybrid author. I mean, I have projects I would like to self-publish. I just haven't had a chance to get back to them yet.
Incredible. We'll have another whole session on that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you and your success in picture books.
Yes,
Was that your traditional publishing breakthrough?
it was.
So why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah. So one day I was in my kitchen and my daughter loves science. And I was writing YA at the time, had no concept of no thinking about picture books at all. Like I had no idea that picture books would be for me. As I mentioned, Alyssa and I parted because I wanted to go dark. She wanted me to go light. And my daughter was going to science camp and she said, science camp's coming up. And I said, are you excited? Like, you've gone to science camp every year. Are you excited? What are you going to do? And she said, no, I don't think I'm excited this year because I think science is for boys. And I thought, wait, what? And she said, yeah. And just to give you some perspective, my husband has a PhD in topography and an undergrad degree in geology. So he worked for imaging companies. I am very big in conservation. In fact, we met volunteering at the Atlanta Zoo. So we are a science family. We are.
Did he go ape over you?
He did. He went ape. That was a
Okay.
good one.
Sorry,
that was
sorry.
good, Belle. That was good.
Why do I love your writing?
That was a good. I'm going to keep that in mind.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to keep that pun in mind.
Okay.
I always say that, I rescued him. Like this, but yours is funnier. I like yours better.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it bothered me. I couldn't understand how a child, this was 2013. So she was 9. So I could not understand how a child who had grown up in a science family, who I know her science teachers weren't saying that, who loved science club, loved science camp. She's the girl that when girls were putting on princess dresses, she was outside looking for earthworms. I couldn't understand. And she loved Magic School Bus. Like that was one of her favorite shows. I couldn't understand how kids can go from loving something to being so influenced by something that they have decided that all of a sudden they don't love it. It's not even like it was waning. It was like, I loved it and now I don't because it's for boys. So that scared me really. Like, where does that come from? That still is my rhetorical question. Like osmosis, like how do they get these messages?
Well, Shelli, in a sense, I don't want to butt in. I don't know that much about your life, but you had the same track, dear. You started out loving science and then went into something entirely different.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's because I think my parents really focused on kind of, me being independent woman, having money. Like, I don't think they focused on passions and interests. We were very focused on passions and interests and science. And so to go that opposite way was shocking.
So you said, I'm gonna show you that science is interesting.
Yes. So I immediately had this image of a little girl that had her hands on her hips and said, what? Science is not for boys. And so I thought, I wonder if I could write a book about science. At the time, we were reading Fancy Nancy, Pinkalicious, Junie B. And I thought, what if I take Fancy Nancy and make it science? And so I tried to do that. So I talked to my agent. She's like, you can try it. So I studied how to do picture books. I read how to do picture books. I probably talked to Harold at some point. I mean, I went through the whole process and I could not get it right. In the meantime, my best friend, Kimberly Derting, who is also a dark YA author, she's the author of the Body Finder series and The Taking. She studied biology in school. And when I was telling her the story, she was like, my daughter said the same thing at that same age. That's so weird. And I said, well, do you want to write this book together? And she was like, sure. So at the time, we were both with Andrea Brown Literary Agency. So we went to our agents and said, we're going to write a picture book. And they're like, but you're dark YA authors. And we're like, yeah, I know. We're going to write a picture book. And they're like, but you write young adult. And we're like, yeah, I know. We're going to write a picture book. And they're like, okay, let's see what you can do. So we wrote Cece Loves Science together.
And that turned into a series.
We turned it into a series. So Cece Loves Science went out on 3 rounds of submission. And we did not think it was going to sell. We had to rewrite it every round. So it was really 3 different stories. In the 3rd round, we met Virginia Duncan at Green Willow, and she preempted Cece Loves Science just right off the table. So came in with an offer, and she said to us, my daughter said the same thing when she was 10 or 11. And Virginia's daughter was the same age as my daughter. So I think that's kind of what grabbed her when she saw it. And, you know, she was like, we need to do a Fancy Nancy for science. So she picked Cece up, and she's the one that created it into a series. Like, she's the one that had the vision for that. Yeah. And now we have 9 books in that series so far.
Incredible. Well,
Yeah.
you've just given me an idea.
Oh,
I have to write
love when that
something
happens.
about, you know, why boys don't love literature.
Yeah. Yeah, boys don't like
I-
reading. Everybody says that. And when they talk about reluctant readers, they're usually talking about boys.
Yeah.
Do it.
I'm gonna.
I love it. I love it.
We have it on tape.
Yeah. It was your idea.
Yeah.
On tape. Copyrighted.
Yeah. Patented. Okay. So but this show is about you. We're gonna have to have 3 shows.
3. Okay.
And maybe you'll end up
series.
hosting the channel, because you're much more fun than I am. Okay. So Cece was your breakthrough.
Cece was our breakthrough. Yeah.
And now we're getting to the subject of today's interview after half an hour, which is Theo TheSaurus.
Yes.
And we'll talk about the engineering pig another time. And the show, this is the brand new one, Theo TheSaurus and the Perfect Pet.
Yep.
And the original one, Theo TheSaurus and the Perfect.
Theo TheSaurus loves big words.
Loves big words.
Yep.
So how many Theos are there?
2.
There's 2. And the second one just launched this summer.
Yes.
Within a week of the pig.
Yes. Yeah. It was a lot of things were pushed back because of COVID, and I was happy because I had 2 books come out over COVID, and I struggled with those books.
Shelli,
so.
Please don't apologize. You know,
Yeah.
one in 5,000 writers gets a book deal. 1 in 50,000 writers gets multiple book deals and becomes as famous and loved as you.
No.
So let's show the pig one. We'll talk about it another time.
Yeah, the pig one is Penny, the engineering tale of the 4th little pig that just came out in September. It's an engineering book.
Yes, and we'll talk about that. Is it an homage to your engineering father?
No, I don't know. It's like I have my STEM books that I do with Kim, and then I just have my funny kind of other light books that I do on the side. So Kim and I really love those STEM topics, but maybe, I mean,
yeah.
I never thought about that before.
What about your mom?
My mom is.
It's obvious to me that you're a daddy's girl, but say a few words about mommy.
That's interesting. I don't think I'm a daddy's girl at all. Like my dad and I butt heads frequently.
That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but no, my mom is a legal assistant, and she's still working, and my dad's retired. So, but she loves to read. She's always loved to read. Our house was full of books. She always took us to the library.
They must be super proud of you.
Yes, they are.
Do you have any other siblings that you wanted to kill when you were young?
I have a sibling I still want to kill, even though he's older, and that is my younger brother, who is 2 years younger. And he is a amazing teacher in Harris County. So
As long as it's just in the planning stage, it's okay.
yes, it's always in the planning stage.
Good.
It's been
Okay,
premeditated now for about 40 years. It's
another idea for a book. Okay.
yes.
Okay, so but we move on. Let's the whole conversation was supposed to be with Theo TheSaurus.
Oh, that's okay.
I know.
I love this conversation. It's good.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. Tell me about Theo TheSaurus.
Theo TheSaurus came about one day. I was in the kitchen. He was like, all my ideas are coming in the kitchen, which is funny because I hate being in the
and your daughter was going to go to dinosaur camp.
No, and I hate cooking too, so I'm rarely in the kitchen. So I don't know why this is all coming up in the kitchen. Maybe I should cook more, but I was in the kitchen and my son, this is my son, he was doing homework in the back. And my son has always loved big words and has always used big words, even when he was little, sometimes not in the right context. So we would be like, I don't know if that's what that means. And so we would constantly be telling him certain words and how to pronounce them. He would pronounce them, oddly. So he yells from the back room as I'm cooking, what's another word for happy? And he is a kid who loves to impress his teachers. So he is always trying to up the ante on his essays. So I said, I don't know, go look at the thesaurus. And he's like, oh, what? And I was like, a thesaurus, because heaven forbid if any family got in the same room and had a discussion. We just yell through the house from room to room because heaven forbid if we walk that extra, 5 steps. So I'm yelling and I said, a thesaurus. He's like, oh, what? And I said, a thesaurus, as in the dinosaur, the saurus. And then I stopped, probably burnt the dinner, Mel, and thought, I wonder if that's been done. I was like, surely that's been done. And so I left the dinner burning and went over and started Googling, and it had not been done. I couldn't believe it. And I wrote it that week and sent it to my agent.
How many drafts did it go through?
It went through a lot. Laura Perkins, she and I stopped working together in May, and I have a different agent now. But the whole time we were working together over those 10 years, which was amazing. She is a very editorial agent. So we probably went through, 5, 6, 7 drafts before it even went out on submission. So I loved that about her. She was really kind of helping to focus, helping to hit the market. Here's what I think would be more sellable. So I love that she would take my creative ideas and help me figure out how to change them to be a little bit more sellable and marketable and relevant.
You're twice divorced from your agents.
I am.
Interesting.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah. So
I want to stay focused, Shelli.
Yeah.
Let's stay focused for 3 minutes.
Okay.
So Theo went through a few revisions.
Yes, many.
And then it went on submission. And what happened?
Went on submission, and my lovely editor, Liza Kaplan, fell in love with Theo, and she was at Philomel. And so she bought.
So Lisa Kaplan from Philomel fell in love with Theo TheSaurus.
That's a new tongue twister.
That's a mouthful. That's another book.
Yeah. Yes. So she fell in love with Theo and the series.
And
so they got 2 books.
Yeah. And well, I must tell you, as somebody who also has a manuscript with big words out on submission, that we're not the only people who have books out on thesauruses or thesaurusi and big words.
Yes.
But there's something very delightful about your book. Could you want to show a few of the spreads, mention the wonderful illustrator?
Yeah, the illustrator is Mike Moran. He's amazing. And how cool was that he got to come up with his own dinosaur? Like, we all want to do that, right? He just got to create Theo from scratch. And I don't know if you notice, but the scales are like little books. And then
wonderful.
Yeah. And then he has a spine, right? So like the spine of the book. So he really kind of put his little touch on it, made him blue. So he looked different from any other dinosaur.
What did you say at the beginning? I'm an open book.
Yes, I'm an open book. I told you I was. I'll tell you anything.
So is Theo.
Theo's an open book.
So what's Theo's problem?
Theo's
What
problem
what's
in
the
the
hero's
first,
journey?
yeah, in the first book, Theo's problem is that he's moving to a new school and no one understands a word he says. Um, and so he goes through miscommunications, misunderstandings, misconceptions, and tries to figure out how to explain what a thesaurus is and how to communicate to make new friends. That's his first problem. His second problem in the new one is that he wants a pet, and he finds an animal, and the animal does not listen to him. And so he tries to figure out how to train the animal in different ways, because the animal is not listening to what he is telling him to do.
Mm-hmm. And of course, there's a much stronger metaphor there.
Yes,
For
about not being heard.
not being heard, not being understood.
Yep.
Yep. Talking to your pet as if they can understand.
Well, just feeling like you're going through life and not being fully understood for who you are. And, kind of at first he gets a little bit ridiculed. They're kind of like, we don't know what you're talking about. And
yeah, how did you choose a saber-toothed tiger to be his pet? I was kind of worried that your dark side would come out and that at the end of the book there would be just a bunch of bones instead of Theo.
What's funny is that my Kirkus review, I can't remember what the mentioned something about that and said, I hope Fang has a good fate, because I think at the end, I'm trying to figure out, because they said, because it looks like there's kind of a prophecy happening, the fact that the dad's tie is the same color as the saber-toothed tiger skin. I was like, I never noticed that. But I thought that was funny, because she was like, hopefully Fang lives at the end.
Do you have a third book in the works?
No, there's not a third book in the works. Liza Kaplan has left as an editor to be a mom and focus on kind of her personal life. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with Theo now. It's always hard when your book gets orphaned and you lose that one person who really loved it and was behind it and had the passion for it. So I have another editor who's amazing. So we'll see. I mean, I have given them a proposal. So I think right now we're waiting just to see how the books do, since the second one just came out.
And you have words there that I like Flibbertigibbet.
Yes.
And part of supercalifragilistic.
Yes.
Were the publishers worried to put the whole word in?
I think so. Did they only put half of it in? I don't even know if I noticed
as far as I remember.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it didn't fit on the page.
It's a long word.
Yeah, it is a long word. Yeah.
I was actually afraid to put it into my submission. You never know when you're going to get a letter from Disney. Even though they fought in court to maintain that it's not their original word.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that either. It's good.
It's a very, very interesting word.
Yeah. Good information.
So, yeah. And so what do you have now in the works?
In the works. So we have 2 more Love Science books coming out. Hopefully more. But 2 more I Can Reads. I Can Reads are doing really well. So we've got one coming out this January and then the next January. Kim and I just sold a chapter book series with Capstone that has not been announced yet. But it does have a thread of science. And I just finished. I was brought in to write the new Chelsea Clinton She Persisted.
Yes, I'm waiting for you to say that.
On Florence Nightingale that comes out in March.
I built it up for you.
Yes, thank you. Ta-da!
Okay. It's incredible.
Yes, I was very happy about that. Yeah.
And I think Michelle Knudsen also has one, and she was on the show, if my memory serves me correctly. And now you, and that's wonderful.
Yes, I'm very excited about that. That was so fun.
So Florence Nightingale, tell us something about Florence Nightingale that we don't know.
Oh gosh, so Florence Nightingale was super sassy. Her mother really just wanted her to get married, and she loved math and science, and so that became a battle her entire life. She loved animals as well. So she had over like 60 pets. And she just wanted to be a nurse. She had a calling. One day, she got a calling from God that she was supposed to take care of people. And she really felt strongly about that mission. And even at the time, nurses were kind of seen as lower class citizens. She didn't care. And they were a very wealthy kind of political family. And she pursued nursing against her family, which caused a lot of problems early on and later.
This is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, and it's coming out in March, which is National Health Awareness Month. So
incredible.
Florence Nightingale was really responsible for the procedures we use today. The call bell, that she was responsible for that. She was responsible for, washing hands, all the stuff that we use through COVID to stay safe. Changing bed linens, keeping, the sick away from the healthy, using masks, like all those sanitation and hygiene procedures that hospitals use.
You have to give some credit to Semmelweis.
Yes.
Not all the credit goes to Nightingale, but that's fine.
Right.
So that's all wonderful. We're sort of running out of time, but I'm actually happy because if you enjoyed yourself, I'm going to have you back in a few months.
Yes, I would love to be back.
And I'd like you to give some advice from your stellar success.
Yes.
To people who are listening and watching the show, on what is Shelli Johannes secret for success in penmanship?
I don't know if it's there's I'll give you two things. One is I always try to write down my intention for a book before I start. What is my intention with this book? What is my heart? What is the heart of this book? Because I think sometimes we have that's what starts us. And then we lose it because we get stuck in the writing process or the critique process or the publishing world and the business side. And so we lose the intent. So I try to always make sure I have that intent. So that's my inspirational message. My business message is I always try to make sure my books are relevant and marketable. And if I write a book that I love and my agent, I'm now with Laurel Simmons at the Bent Agency. If she gives me feedback and says, I feel like this is going to hit the market better, I will change it. I am not married to my books. I'm not a sellout. Like, I don't want to give the impression I'm a sellout. That is not me. I'm definitely not a sellout, but I am open to understanding that publishing is a business. And I think that's really hard for creatives to think about. So I have a creative hat, inspiration and intention, and then I have a business hat that I try to separate those two.
But okay, so this is to use a small word, a dichotomy.
Yeah.
At least for a writer like me. Okay. And I've tried to write a marketable book, turns out to be boring as hell. The only books that I write that are interesting are ones in which I ignore the world. So I'm not going to succeed.
No, you write first. Don't even think about marketing. Don't even think about marketing.
Okay.
You write with your intention. Like,
Okay.
You stay with your intention so that you don't lose the intention. So you write with the intention, you finish it, you love it, you put all your passion into it. Then you have to really be open to that other side of those critiques, the agents, the feedback that comes in from editors, and be willing to see that there might be some things that need to be tweaked, but you need to protect your intention. So, for example, Theo, my first Theo, the story that is out is not the story they picked up. We went through that whole story, went to copy edits, and when it went to copy edits and marketing said, we feel like this needs to be a different story for it to be much more relevant in the market. We love Theo, we love the words, but instead of having it was more of I'm a thesaurus. It was more of teaching someone about how to love words and how to pronounce words and how to find words. It became a story about Theo using those words. So I had to rewrite that entire book after copy edits. And so when my editor came to me and said, we talked with marketing and this is what we feel like would be more, I was like, okay, just like, let's do it. But the intention of the book is about a boy who is misunderstood and is always he loves words and he's trying to communicate and fit in. So that intention was protected. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sure was. So in closing today, can you read a bit of your new book for the audience?
Of the Theo book, The Pet?
Yes.
Yeah. I always get nervous when I read these because I'm always afraid I'm going to mispronounce something. Theo loved big words, but not small ones. He was a sesquipedalian. A sesquipedalian means a lover of colossal words. Theo was also a zoophilist. A zoophilist is someone who loves animals. He loved creatures of all shapes and sizes, even ones with big teeth. And Theo really wanted a pet of his very own. He researched different species to find just the right fit. Pliosaurus too wet, pterodactyl too high, T-Rex too rude. Theo was melancholy. That's the beginning.
It's wonderful. So we're not
I'll
gonna
leave it
give
on a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Oh, oy vey.
Yeah. You got to buy it to find out what happens.
Prehistoric.
Yeah.
So listen, Shelli, this was marvelous.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I wanted to meet you since I started reading about you.
Great.
We have so many common interests. We have the science thing.
Big words.
And the big words thing and some things we haven't discovered yet.
Yes.
And I'm going to invite you back.
Absolutely. I would love to come back.
Very soon. Maybe, when is the Florence Nightingale coming out?
March.
It's
a chapter book. That's what I'm telling you. I've done picture books, early readers, chapter books. I just got to hit the middle grade. I've done nonfiction. I got to hit the middle grade and the YA. That's it.
You have to cover all the bases.
Yep.
Which we teach people not to do.
Yes, that's true. I just follow my heart. It's wherever the story takes me.
Which we teach people to do.
Yeah.
So it's been incredible. Shelli R Johannes.
Yes.
A wonderful, prolific, and extremely successful and lovely children's author.
Oh, and thank you, because I've actually never been asked about anything prior to my picture books. So I appreciate you digging in a little bit and getting some history of the full journey.
In my prior life, I was a researcher.
Okay, so you like to dig in.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I'm Mel Rosenberg for the Children's Literature Channel of the New Books Network. And run out and buy Shelli Johannes's books. There are many of them. Theo TheSaurus, there's 2 books out now, and the new one on the pig who wanted
Penny,
to keep
the engineering tale.
Okay, not the pig who wanted to keep kosher.
No, that would be an interesting book, though.
I'm going to write that one. I'm going to write that.
You got 2 books out of this deal.
I think I got more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Listen, this was great. Have to say goodbye.
It was so fun.
Thanks so much, Shelli. Bye-bye.
Bye.